Sweet potatoes are one of the most rewarding crops that you'll ever grow in a Trinidad garden. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to grow your own right at home, easy, organic, and affordable. Hello everyone, this is Dylan from the Trinidad Gardener channel, and I'm so excited that you joined me today because I'm going to be showing you how to grow your own organic, easy, and affordable sweet potatoes right at home. We just finished doing a harvest that we're going to see in a harvest video of sweet potatoes, and now I'm going to show you how you can grow your own sweet potatoes. Now, the first thing that you need to grow sweet potatoes is a place to grow them. Here I have something that we recycled. I don't know if you recognize it, but it's actually an old fridge that we kept, and it's something that we just never threw away. So we recycled it, and we have sweet potatoes. Well, we had sweet potatoes growing in here that you can see if you look at the sweet potato harvest video. Something very important is that you don't need to worry about having too deep of soil to have sweet potatoes. We measured this here, and this entire fridge, the depth that we have is just around 12 inches. That means 1 foot of dirt, and you can have sweet potatoes growing. So you don't need to have a lot of land. You just literally need any kind of container. Even if it's a bucket, you can have sweet potatoes. The second thing that we need are the plants that we're going to be using. To plant sweet potatoes, you actually just need to get some of the vine of a sweet potato. When you cut it out like this, it's called a slip. Right, so I'm just going to make a cut, like for instance here. Right, this is a plant. This is something that I can use to propagate. Right, and I'm just going to come through here again. This is another slip, right, a plant, okay, that I can use for my sweet potatoes. I don't actually need very much. This grows, it's so crazy how quickly this grows. So within no time of planting this, you're going to have like too much slips than you really want. All right, just imagine all of these vines here came out of this little fridge space here, and this fridge is just around 18 inches by about 4 feet, and all of this came off, right? So that will lead us into the third point. The next point is understanding that sweet potatoes are a highly invasive plant. All right, the vines that grow from these slips is going to take over this entire bed. It's going to be spreading and just hampering all of these other plants here. So ideally, you really shouldn't have too many plants near to your sweet potatoes, because they're so invasive and they will cover. Like at one point I had to keep on moving back the vines from these other plants here, but I'm limited by space, so this is what I have to work with. If you have the option of having a sweet potatoes somewhere just isolated by themselves, that would be the best thing, because they aren't the most friendly neighbor. They do tend to intrude on the other person's, on the other plant's space. Now, I have noticed a sort of a worrying trend among some growers, fellow growers, who have this idea that the soil is basically there and it's forever there, and you can just keep on growing, and it's almost like a point of pride to say that I've grown so much without ever having to put fertilizer or anything into the soil. That's not a sense of pride, because what you're doing is actually you're taking something from the soil that you're not putting back, and there is a limit. This is why some people talk about their soil that's not doing well. That's because after just months and years of using nutrients that comes from the earth, we haven't put back anything. So it's important, especially if you've just used a certain plot of land or whatever you've done, to re-mineralize. Organically, you can do it. You don't need to get any sort of chemical fertilizers, and re-mineralize your land so that you can get the best harvest over time. Okay, you have to re-mineralize so that over time you're taking care of the soil that you are using and that you're benefiting from. So you're not just taking, but you're giving back, and we're going to be doing that right now with some compost. Right, this is some wood compost that is going to add really good nutrition to this bed here. All right, this is some rotted, well, it's called a mortal tree that we have, and this is going to be a good balanced, slow release fertilizer that is going to help this soil. Okay, now I'm not saying that I couldn't probably plant directly back inside there and get a harvest. That's not what I'm saying. I probably could, but I don't just want to be in the habit of taking from the soil. I've gotten a harvest of sweet potato just now from this bed here, so I want to put back something, and that way I'm always going to have rich, good soil, because I'm taking, but I'm also giving. All right, as evenly as possible, nothing too fancy, just around the top of the bed here, just adding probably about 1 inch to 2 inches of compost to the top of the soil. Right, if you want, you can actually just mix it in like that. It's not really necessary, because it's something slow release. All right, it's going to take some time, and as there's the weathering of the rotten wood and all of that, the nutrients is going to go down into the soil here. So I'm not too worried about mixing it in, right? Even though I am going to. Um, but this is going to already, this is more than enough to remineralize the soil here and to be able to plant directly back into it here. But I'm going to go a little step further, and I'm going to be adding in some worm castings, some vermicompost into the plant bed here. Now this is not super necessary, right? I'm just very gently sort of sprinkling a few handfuls in here. But vermicompost or worm castings is a very good, amazing, natural, organic source of nitrogen and some other nutrients into the soil, also as well as adding really good organic matter and having good soil microorganisms, encouraging that worms and other beneficial fungi in your soil itself. So even though it's not necessarily like obligatory to have it, it's something that's not going to hurt to adding worm castings into your soil. That way you're always taking care, you're being a good steward of the land. And I'm just going to be adding in just a little bit of this garden tone fertilizer here. Again, this is not super necessary. It's just something that I'm doing here. This is also a slow release fertilizer. And this is me taking care of my soil. You can have good success without adding in any of these things here. Just simply the compost would have been more than enough. But I'm just taking a little extra precaution here to make sure that the next harvest is going to be nice and bountiful. Okay, so I'm just going to mix in some of those amendments that I just put inside here. Right, just very gently moving it up. Right, and this is going to encourage a good symbiotic relationship in the soil itself with the garden tone that I just put in there. Some beneficial fungi, right, and bacteria, for instance, mycorrhizae and mycorrhizal bacteria, they're very, very useful in the soil itself. And also it's, you know, when people are growing root tubers, you know, they focus entirely on potassium and the phosphorus, which obviously is for root development. But if you don't have good foliage, the foliage itself for any of these root tuber crops is what gives you a nice bountiful harvest. When you see all of these leaves, what are these leaves doing? They're gathering and they're collecting energy from the sunlight, and then they're transferring that excess energy that they don't need to survive. They put it down into their tubers themselves, and that's what grows really nice, good root tubers, and that goes to all of your root crops. So it's important to focus also on nitrogen, especially in the beginning stages of your root crops. Okay, our fifth and second to last step is going to be actually planting. So I'm going to take my slip here. This is the bottom of the slip, although I don't think it's as important as that. You just have to just come right here. Don't even dig anything. You just stick it in, just sort of like that here, right? Just generously put them inside here. Literally, that's all that you have to do, right? And I'm just barely sticking them in, probably like an inch, 2 inches down inside there. Nothing too fancy for sweet potatoes. And there we have it, all planted in. Something important that I didn't mention was that if you are using something like a bucket or any kind of container, that you make sure and put drainage holes inside of your bucket, okay? And also, really and truly, sweet potato is one of the things that you can kind of plant it and forget it, literally. So you really don't have to stress out about watering this regularly or anything like that. I'm just going to water it in one time at the very beginning, and then I literally am going to forget this pretty much forever. Well, not forever, until the next harvest comes around, right? Because just with the bit of rain that you get, it's only more than enough for those root tubers, and they don't like to be too waterlogged as well. So be very careful with that, especially for sweet potatoes. That can make it start to rot. Okay. And there you have it, 6 super simple steps to growing your own homegrown organic sweet potatoes right in a container in your front yard or your backyard. In just 4 months, I should have sweet potatoes right here. The last harvest video, if you haven't seen, go check it out. In just 4 months that happened, okay? And you know, it's so fulfilling to come pull out something. It's like opening a present on Christmas Day. You don't know what you're going to get, but you pull up and then you have a nice sweet potato right there that you would have paid money for, and you don't have to because you grew it yourself. Remember, if you know someone who would be interested in growing more food for themselves and their family, share this video with them and let's help them grow and eat more homegrown organic food and save some money. Remember, if you want to see more content coming out of our garden, follow us on Instagram. And once again, this has been Dylan with the Trinidad Gardener channel, reminding you to get up and get growing. Take care.